Good afternoon. My name is Alena Shautsova. I'm an immigration attorney from Brooklyn, New York. And in today's live Facebook presentation, I would like to give you some updates and one more time explain the new 365 days asylum pending related work permit rule. I received many inquiries from people asking how this new rule is going to affect them, who this new rule is going to affect. Is it going to affect those who already have pending claims, or is it going to affect only new asylum applications? So let's talk about this. First of all, the new rule is going to affect everyone. Those who already have pending claims and those who going to file new claims, but it's going to affect people in different ways. So let's talk about those who have asylum cases already pending and they already had one work authorization. Is it going to affect them when they're going to be renewing the work permits? Well, yes and no. First of all, for those who are going to file for the renewal of their work permits after August 25, 2020, their work permits may be denied if they caused a delay in adjudication of their asylum application. For example, they amended the asylum application, sent some documents that are causing delays, and the USCIS or the judge determined that there was a delay caused by the applicant, right? And while this delay caused by the applicant is in progress, renewals of the work permits, it seems to be, will be denied, okay? If a person with a pending asylum application is convicted of an aggravated felony or convicted after on or after August 25, 2020 of a particular serious crime, then a person will be found ineligible for work permit. For example, there is certain convictions that qualifies as a particularly serious crime, and it happened, the conviction's date is August 25, 2020, and the person had pending asylum claim. Now the person will not be able to get the work permit. It's very, very important. So delays, criminal convictions. Those are the main two things that will stop somebody who has a pending asylum claim from receiving new work permit. A person who does not show up for biometric fees, the person who doesn't show up for the interview, of course, will have their work permit denied as well. You may be aware of that. It's actually has been the case before. But so let's talk about the new rules. So there is a rule saying that if you're filing your application on or after August 25, 2020, and you're filing your application after 1 year deadline, right? So it means that you entered the United States prior to August 25, August 26, 2019, and now you're filing your asylum application. You will not be able to get a work permit unless USCIS officer will determine that your case qualifies for an exception from 1 year rule, but it's only for new filings. For example, you filed your application prior to August 25, 2020, it was accepted, right? And even though you filed it after your 1 year deadline, after you overstayed for more than 365 days or so in the United States after the entry to the United States before you filed your work permit, and it happened before August 25, 2020, you will still qualify for the work permit, okay? You may have to wait longer, 365 days instead of 150 days, but you will still qualify for the work permit without the determination whether or not your case should fall into exceptions to 1 year deadline. All right, that's very important. But if the same person files the application on or after August 25, 2020, no work permit, regardless of how long the application is pending, unless and until USCIS officer or the judge would rule that the person actually met some exceptions to the 1-year filing deadline. As you may be aware, people who come to the United States, they have to file for asylum within 1 year of entry. Okay, so that's one very important change. Doesn't affect everyone, but those who are submitting their documents after on or after August 25, 2020, and they overstayed the 1-year deadline. That's I would say one of the biggest changes. Now, for those who will be filing for work permit for the first time after August 25, 2020, you guys will have to wait for 365 days to pass, okay? After USCIS accepted your application, or court accepted your application, before you can qualify for the work permit. This is the new rule. It means that, for example, your application was actually accepted by USCIS in May of 2020, all right? And by August 25, 2020, you haven't accumulated 365 days of pending application. Then you will have to wait for a full year, okay, 365 days or a year before you can qualify for the work permit. The problem is, of course, that during that year, many different things can happen. For example, your application can be denied by the officer. It can be denied and you can be referred to court. So, or it can be denied in court. The rule says actually that if your application is denied by the officer or by the judge, you will not qualify for the work permit if 365 days have not passed from the time your application was submitted, accepted. All right, so those are the main changes, okay? So don't cause delays. Try to stay away from convictions of aggravated felony or particular serious crimes. Also, for somebody who, that's another very important change, for somebody who enters the United States on or after August 25, 2020, okay, and this entry is between ports of entry, meaning that the person did not surrender themselves when they were trying to enter the United States. They crossed the border and they didn't surrender themselves within 48 hours after they crossed the border. They didn't present themselves before the Department of Homeland Security officer. Such a person also will be disqualified from getting work permit, okay? So for those of you who enter the United States without inspection, but you already have a work permit and you're going to be renewing the work permit, the rule does not change anything for you. But for new people, people who will be coming to the United States or came to the United States on August 25, 2020, August 25th, 2020, and onward, if they come through the border, okay, do not surrender themselves, no work permit. So these are the main changes for the work permit, okay? I hope it clarifies a little bit as to what's going to happen. So basically, if you had work permit, most likely you will be able to renew it unless there is a delay or particular serious crime. For those of you who are going to get the work permit or trying to get the work permit for the first time, you have to be mindful of 365 days from the time your application is pending, okay? From the time your application is accepted. And of course, if you cross the border, then from August 25, 2020, if you entered the United States and didn't surrender yourself, no work permit. These are the new rules, right? There are also some minor explanations there here and there, but basically what it means for a regular person, right? Let's say you're going to be filing for asylum. It means that you must, okay, you must file your case within the 1 year deadline, preferably, if it's all possible. That's what you should do. You have to prepare your case very well so that all the parts of your case are in place. The application form is filled correctly. You attached all the evidence and of course your story, your statement, and you attached as much evidence as possible so you will not be accused if you're going to amend your application or you're going to attach some extra evidence. All right, so that's what it is for the new rule. All right, so thank you guys for joining me today. Now, if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them. What about revoking of the visa? Usually if the visa is revoked, you will have to file for it again to get into the United States. But depending on the reason why it was revoked, you may not be able to without a waiver, or if there is no waiver, you may not be able to apply for it at all, depending on the circumstances. Hi, I applied for I-751 in June 2018, but I didn't get any results. What do you think takes them so long? Well, I'm not sure what's going on in your case. You know, if you got your notice that the case was accepted, perhaps it would be a good idea to follow up with them and see what's happening, okay? If you filed, if you submitted joint filing, I would say it's pending for a little bit too long, right? If you had a case with no prior issues, maybe your attorney will give you better advice. Maybe you would like to file for citizenship, okay? If you qualify for it now, if you're still in the marital union and you have 3 years since the time you first became, excuse me, permanent green card holder, even though conditional green card holder, you may choose that route to try to speed up resolution of your I-751. Okay. What about 2016 asylum interview? If you filed your case in 2016 and you still are waiting for your interview, that's actually nothing new. That's what happens, okay? People are waiting for the interview for years. It can take 5 years, unfortunately, 6 years, because the way the interviews or asylum claims of processing has been changed. Now, first, people who came last are going to be interviewed first. Plus, we had coronavirus, where USCIS was pretty much closed for 6 months, right? So you have to take that into consideration. Hi, good day. Is USCIS doing biometrics now? I applied in March, get receipt in April. I'm not sure what you applied for in March and your receipt in April. Your biometrics could have been waived, but for that you would receive a separate notice. But yes, certain USCIS biometric facilities were reopened, and they do process the fingerprints. I'm not sure if where you reside, this is the case. It depends on your local office, I guess, more than anything, and the type of application you applied. Because, for example, for I-751s, for certain work permits, the government was able to reuse the fingerprints, and people did not have to show up for the fingerprints, okay? All right, so that's what is happening. And I see a question, how can I get appointment with you? Well, if you're interested in appointment with me, please call my office. It's 917-885-2261. This is our number. And just talk to my secretary and he will try to assist you and answer your questions about how to get an appointment. I applied for asylum in November 2015, didn't get interviewed. I sent an expediting request in December 2019. They respond saying they accepted my request and will send me the interview appointment by mail, but nothing came yet. There is nothing much you can do, unfortunately, okay? It all depends on asylum office, basically, if they have a room for you or they don't have a room for you. Also, you know, kind of what happened is that coronavirus happened during the time probably when you were supposed to be called, if there were some openings for the in asylum office. But that's, once the case is filed, all right, and is pending with asylum office, you have little control over how long it's going to be pending. Practically none, okay? It's going to depend on USCIS asylum office, on certain other situations in the country. For example, some offices like Newark, Boston office had to reallocate their resources, send their staff to the southern border, and of course that would cause delays, plus coronavirus. So, that's what happens. We're all in the same boat, unfortunately. Somebody asked me about any news on President Trump's situation. No, I haven't seen any news that would actually change anything in the current situation. I know that in his speech, he stated that immigration is his priority, to stop illegal immigration and so on and so forth. But I'm not aware of any new executive orders. I know that there are some lawsuits pending that perhaps will help certain people to come to the United States, certain immigrants. But other than that, no news yet. Both sides, Democrats and Republicans, state that they somehow going to change immigration in the United States. So far, we only saw some very isolated changes, no reform yet from either side. I know that sometimes they offer certain, how they call them, proposed bills that would address certain issues, but I haven't seen any comprehensive immigration reform, a bill that would propose to fix situation of people who have been living in the United States for decades, pay taxes, and speak English better than somebody who was born here. All right. DACA children have the same situation. You can't even call them DACA. It's people who somehow don't have United States citizenship, but pretty much lived here all their lives and graduated from colleges, work throughout the United States system. It's crazy. So of course there should be a solution for that. No solution yet. We'll hope for that. We're gonna see what's going to happen. But that's where we stand right now. My wife got her interview scheduled, but coronavirus caused her interview canceled. When can I hear from USCIS for rescheduling? Really do not know, guys. Okay, it depends on if it was in an interview in a local consulate, depends on when the local consulate is going to reopen. You may, if you're a US citizen, right, and you're trying to sponsor your wife, meaning that there is no ban for that, you can write a letter to the consulate saying that, explaining why you need your wife to be in the United States. I know such letters do work, okay? And if your consulate is not completely shut down, you may have a chance of them actually rescheduling your wife's interview and, to have an opportunity for her to come over. All right. So do you think Joe Biden will do better on immigration than Donald Trump? Guys, I really do not know. We had Obama and, we had other presidents. I'm not sure, because you have to understand, from my perspective, it's not one person who controls the entire ship, right? We have Congress, we have courts. I know that there have to be some sort of understanding in the society that this is the point where we have to address the elephant in the room, right? We have to do something for all these people who kind of live here and have no status, and it's been continuing for 2 decades. The last comprehensive solution was in 2001, I believe, right? When there was this grandfathering clause, and then, there is nothing else. And it's been 20 years with no solution for many people. and I think it's time, it's generation basically, it's time to come up with some good plan. I know that there are many smart people, okay, people who are much smarter than me, and I'm sure that they know much more than me about the legislative history of the immigration law in the United States, about the impact of immigrants living in the United States. And I hope that, you know, I can only hope that they will finally address this big issue. All right. Thank you so much. In Mumbai, which consulate? Well, you have to write to the consulate, Azim, where your wife's interview was supposed to take place. I understand that the interview was supposed to happen overseas, right? If you're saying that the interview was supposed to happen in the United States, all right, and the interview was canceled, interview for adjustment of status, then it will be rescheduled. You just need to wait a little bit. Some of my cases that had interview scheduled for April, they already been rescheduled for August, right? Interviews already started happening. I guess it depends on your local office. You know, it depends on how this office is working. Now, the good news is that we don't have furloughs, right? We don't need to worry about USCIS offices not working. All right, so thank you very much for joining me today. Very happy to see you all participating, asking me questions. It's very nice to see you. You know, we all are waiting for the news, watching what's going to happen with the immigration situation in the United States. And I always be happy to provide you with updates regarding immigration news as soon as I get them. Thank you very much. Like, share, and I hope to see you soon.